back to the channel. Massive podcast on store tonight. We've got the Manchester Derby coming up at the weekend, Halloween weekend as well. Massive weekend. Big time as we approach the third international break of the season. Two teams in very, very different circumstances coming into this game, but we've got two very special guests to join us. We've got Adam Mc Daid, content creator and graphic designer, working with some of the players in England, and football coach, musician, Man City fan, whatever you want to call him. Jamie Noonan, the carpet cleaning man. Jamie Noonan's here as well. Man of many talents. Boys, brilliant to have you on. Adam, let's come to you first. Tell everybody what you've been doing over the last few months. I know you were on in the summer. What have you been up to since?
So Gareth, good to be back. So it's kind of the same again. The company I work with, Stat Sports, it's we do all the GPS tracking and stuff. So like a lot of the English teams and stuff use it, so we kind of get access to the older players and stuff. It's kind of the same, like just shooting with the ambassadors and stuff. So like Harry Kane, Phil Foden, Oxlade-Chamberlain. But a good one there recently was in the lead up to the Rugby World Cup. We were shooting with the All Blacks. So they kind of see their training session and all before it, and kind of meeting them all and just stuff like that there. But just kind of the same, Gareth. Just flat out as usual. And then we had shoots there maybe about a month ago. But fortunately, the missus she booked we holiday the Lisbon, so with the shoots they can literally be the week before we find out. So I missed the Kane one this year over in Munich, so I was ready to do that. But
I go on to, but you'll catch that fish again, no doubt. Jamie, glad to have you back on. I mean, big weekend in terms of football, but I mean, outside of that, life. I mean, I'm sure you're busy as well. People probably know you from the music scene. Where are you at over the weekend?
Back out tonight on the Sunday night, and then I'm working all week at the weekend at the parade and stuff up in the Halloween, the Awakening of the Walls. I'll be doing sound for the next few nights up there, so not too bad. So kind of relaxed weekend. We're waiting Euro with TriStar in the morning for a match, and then we have our Winter Cup final on Sunday. So hopefully we'll win that, and that'll be double winners this year. So it's not too bad.
Brilliant. And speaking of double winners and treble winners, we've got the treble winners. Two playing each other this weekend. United from '99 and Man City from 2023. We're going to be doing that in about 20 minutes, half an hour's time. It's created a lot of debate on the post today. I want to put it up. Everyone was having their say. I haven't seen anyone do the exact same team twice, which shows you how difficult this is to do and the pressure on these lads tonight to get this right. But look, before I get into it, the Manchester Derby is here. A huge game. I mean, two of the most successful teams in England, especially recently with Man City's dominance. You know, there is that power struggle now in Manchester where City are threatening to take over. It's going to take them a bit more time, but the way it's going at the minute, City are absolutely flying. I mean, Adam, we'll start with you. You're a Man United fan. I mean, how do you feel at the minute? I mean, it just seems they feel that United start off well with a new coach. Ten Hag's come on, won a cup last year, finished third, got to the cup final, beaten by City in a very tight game, which could have went either way. But I mean, it just looks like it's going backwards again. Similar to what happened with Mourinho, similar to what happened with Solskjaer. I mean, what do you think's the problem?
It's kind of one of them ones like you think back through the years. It's like after Moyes, we were like, right, we'll get a good coach. I got Van Gaal. Same kind of thing back in the first year. Then kind of come to the second and don't get him the players that he wants. And like managers have come out before saying they know. Even Solskjaer came out there a few weeks ago in an interview, I think, and said they know that the club weren't getting the players that he wanted or that he was recommending. So I kind of think from a board level, and I don't want to keep going on the Glazers, but from a board level, I think they're not getting the signings that they want, or if they're getting a signing, they're paying well over the odds for it that they want. Kind of think, though, last year was a bit different. Like, we started off well in the preseason under Ten Hag, and then, them first two free games just were mental. And then kind of now, I think we've done the exact same. But like, I kind of look back and be like, you have to look above, because fair enough, we got a few players in over the summer, but like, I always think we needed another striker. And you see your man Haaland, like, it does look good. There's a player there. But like, Jesus, we should have broke the bank for a Kane or something like that to go along with him. Do you know what I mean? An out-and-out goal scorer. But I just kind of think the signings we made in the summer, they didn't make us any better. I think they just kind of kept us at a steady level, but everyone else has got better, so we're almost a step behind, if that makes sense. Like last year, I think we were playing most of the season with a striker with Martial out. And it's like, right, need a new striker. We get a striker, but I don't think it's enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he gets injured with Martial, and it's like Martial's useless now. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of shows over the years how far we've really dropped off. So it does.
I mean, Jamie, from the Man City perspective, looking at United at the minute, we've done a lot of podcasts throughout the last few months. I mean, we spoke about it in the summer. There was a lack of activity at United for a number of months, and they were kind of scrambling around towards the end of the window. I mean, what's the biggest? What has from Ten Hag last year? Everyone was expecting to kick on because I mean, his first season couldn't have really went much better. United and Arsenal were brilliant last season. You couldn't really expect United to get that level in a manager's first season. He won a League Cup. He got the FA Cup final, beaten by the treble winners and the best team in the world last year. And they finished third in the league. So I mean, what's happened so drastically that they've fallen off a cliff this year so far?
To be honest with you, I think last year they overachieved for what's there. I think the way they're doing the business is awful. I think years ago you used to look at United. United was a benchmark of how to conduct business at your football club. They didn't talk about signings. They were never linked with anybody, and if they were, it was kept behind closed doors, and the deal was done. They went out and they got the player they were after. Now it's as if they're throwing half-arsed wee buds on there for boys that they know they're not going to get, just to act like, well, they can say they've competed, and they've not. Ten Hag, as a coach, that I rate very highly. I thought when he first came on, I thought that he was. I don't like the way he does things. I thought with the Ronaldo situation, when United fans thought he was being brave and got straight.
Everything's very public. Is that what you mean?
100%. That's what I think. He has a lot they say, like cameras, when it should be dealt with behind closed doors. And you're seeing it now with the Sancho situation. Now, we spoke about this the last time I was on, Gareth, and I don't disagree with what he's saying about Sancho, but I disagree with the way he's saying it. I thought fair play to Sancho coming out and defend himself. I think managers, you have to earn the right to be publicly critical. And in today's era of football, the manager has to prove himself as much as the players do, and Ten Hag's not proving himself. He's come in there. He has been given money to spend. He's bought players at big price tags. I know it's an inflated market, but he's not really. There's been never any consistency. And if you look at the players that he's bringing back on, he wanted rid of Maguire and Matambi, and he's got the two of them playing again. You know what I mean?
And they've probably been their two best players in the last few games.
Sorry, what's that?
They've probably been their two best players in the last couple of games.
100%. They weren't. They kind of. It was as if he just jumped on what the media says was the problem. Maguire was never the problem. He's just not that type of footballer. If Maguire had went to West Ham in the summer, he would have had a better season than any of the United centre halves because that team's tailor-made for a Harry Maguire. Stand in the box and head the ball away. United have to defend from the halfway line. He's not the answer, but he's definitely not the problem either. You know what I mean? United, I think if you look at them, I think they lack belief. And I think the likes of, there's too many players getting too much praise for small windows of good form. Like Rashford last year, he had a wee hand in summer after the World Cup, and he's not really done anything. He's not really got going at all this season. Casemiro's the same.
I mean, Adam, I mean, Jamie's not convinced on Ten Hag. I mean, as a United fan, you were sort of saying this at the top of the show there, that you're looking above me. We'll look at all our problems that are around United at the minute, but focusing on Ten Hag, I mean, do you believe as a fan that he is the man long term? Do you bring that success back to United? Or because one of the big question points that's sort of been put on him is United have no clear identity. He's been here 18 months. No one knows what the style of play is. They seem to go from week to week, changing team, changing players, changing formation. So, I mean, from a United fans' point of view, how do you feel about it?
For me personally, I still do think he's the right man. Like, I think, like Jamie said, completely overachieved last year with that squad he has. With the Ronaldo situation and stuff, I do always think like keep it behind closed doors. But at the end of the day, is like the manager should be the most important person at that club. Do you know what I mean? Whatever he says, it's like Liverpool and Klopp. You'd lose Van Dijk and Salah before you'd lose Klopp. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like it's a cycle we've been in over the years. Like back him the first year, sack him the second. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of this one like. Fair enough, he's come on, took the 40, and like if he doesn't want to play a player, he's not playing him. So I do think he's the right man, and like if they sack him, I'd be like, honestly, I'd be like, I don't know where to go anymore because it's just rinse and repeat the same thing over and over and over again. I think like again, like kind of with signings and stuff too, it's like he probably playing me out a striker last year. he didn't want to play that kind of style play. He wants to work it out from the back. I don't think De Gea helped him there. I don't think Maguire kind of is. I think there's a player on Maguire, but I don't think he suits that style. Do you know what I mean? That's why now we've had to adjust our style with how bad we're playing, that it's starting to make Maguire look good. But like, do I think him and McTominay are the answer? Absolutely not. And like, how many top 6 teams would they start on? I don't think many either.
I mean, one of the things, Adam, that's been talked about is right. There's about players coming on, but you would have to say that he's had an influence on some of these players coming on because he's worked with a lot of them before, and I think every player he's signed has at some point played in the Dutch league. Even Mason Mount was on loan at a Dutch team. Amrabat was playing in Holland before. He's worked with Martinez, Onana. He knows all these players. So I mean, do you think he's misread the English game in terms of maybe thinking some of these players are at the level of United? Coming from Ajax, the United's a big step up in class.
100%, but I don't think he's must. I think that's his comfort zone, or he's scared to look outside of that he knows these players, he's worked with them before. But I do think he needs to kind of broaden that scouting system and get players on. It's kind of like he was wanting Amrabat too all summer. The board just wouldn't pay the money, and then like the last day of the season they pulled a loan for him. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm kind of like, are you going to back him? Are you not going to back him? Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'm kind of glad that they got him all alone because he's fucking shite. Do you know what I mean? So, I'll give him the credit where the credit's due there to the board, because at the minute he's done nothing. Like, I used to think McTominay and Fred were terrible in that holding position, but McTominay and Amrabat, they're terrible in it. Do you know what I mean? They will not get you to the next level. And just, I think he's getting the players, but I think he needs to move out of his comfort zone and go for players that he's not worked with before, if that makes sense.
It's mad. You just mentioned the loan market. Like, it's mad they think of Man United. Like, obviously we're going to talk about the treble winners in a wee while, but from my age and that area, United were the biggest club in my time of being a football fan. And it's like, they're loaning boys on. That's the wee boys coming on loan are boys that aren't wanted at their club. You know what I mean? And I think that's crazy. Like,
Jamie, there's a comment.
Remember who they are. Like,
Jamie, there's a comment coming on here on screen. Jamie Carger wrote a piece today. I actually read it. Callum's saying here that he says that there was the playing style at the minute's no different to how they played under Ollie and Jose. It's the same counter-attack football, which won't achieve major trophies. And I think he means Premier League and Champions League. They might pick up the odd cup. They might make top 4, but in the end, there's not going to be any progression. I mean, why do you think, Ten Hag's game in Holland was all about possession football? I mean, Ajax were seconds away from the Champions League final. They probably deserved to make that Champions League final. Spurs got very fortunate in the end. I mean, and he didn't really have, if you compare his squad, the other teams that he was up against, he found what he demolished Real Madrid, demolished Juventus. They were 3-0 up against Spurs with 45 minutes to go. And a Lucas Moura free hat-trick dumped them out. But I mean, why do you think that hasn't sort of transferred to United? Because he's been here, as we said, this is his a season and a quarter in. He's had 2 full pre-seasons. And he's got a lot of the players on that he would have been used to the style of play. If you look at Martinez, Onana, and a few other boys that he signed, Casemiro came from Real Madrid, would have been used to playing that style of play as well. So why do you think it's not working? It's
mad. Like, his most successful player, in my opinion, at the time that he had at Ajax was
Van de Beek.
Before he went to United. I thought he was outstanding. It was like, he was one of the few players that United signed in recent years. As a City fan, I was disappointed to see him go there. I would like him at City. I felt that we could have played a role there. But Jesus, he's been awful. Well, do you know what? I say he's been awful, but he's not played. And even when he went, I've watched him at times, and he's the kind of player they need. But he's not been given a chance. No injuries haven't helped him. But he's obviously not doing anything. But there's levels to it. At the end of the day, Vinny Company had Burnley playing dominant football in the Championship. You know what I mean? There's levels to it. You come in, and the Premier League's just a different animal. When you think you've signed a few good players, I do think United have the bones of a decent squad, but they're not going to compete unless they buy like a couple of top level players. Now, no, I like the young striker. I think he looks up hard, like Garnacho as well. And for me, I would play him week in, week out, Garnacho, because he's so raw. He needs to play. You need to get a player out of him. Like, there's no point bringing him on for 10 minutes week in, week out, and then at the same time you're bringing on Martial. But there was something I watched now. I don't know if it was just the commentators put in my head, but he was making a substitution the other night. And he was taking off Rashford, and Rashford seemed to take a hump. And then he changed his mind. But I don't know if that was just a wrong number went on the board or not. But to me, that doesn't look good.
Well, I think because Rashford's been so poor, You know, I think that was where he's going to take him, and he's been sulking. It's not as if he's been unlucky. I mean, he just looks like he's not enjoying it. He's sulking. But I mean, my dad's saying here maybe Conte would be a better fit. I don't know if he's being serious or not.
You know what? He's not far wrong. Hey, Conte will come on, he'd shut up shop and see that leaky back line they have. You know, he's not. You know, he would shut up shop and he'll ball from the back. You know, he'd be playing 5, 2 wing backs. That's the way he likes to play. You know, at the minute, it's all up for grabs. There's no such thing as the Man United way anymore. So it's all up for grabs. If Conte comes on and he gets the right players, he could make a success of it, you know.
Mark's saying here, ask the lads about the Núñez nonsense I've been speaking about all day. I mean, we had a bit of a debate today on Núñez, and we know what we'll do. We'll ask you when we chat about the Premier League predictions that are on. So, Mark, stay tuned. We will ask the lads for their opinion on that. Adam, we're going to come back to you because you have alluded to this. You know, we've seen a lot of top. You know, I can't think of too many players United have signed where I thought he's a bad player. You know, you look at the likes of Casemiro, Van de Beek, Sancho. These were all players thriving at all our clubs. You know, there was a reason United signed them. So they've had numerous different managers. You know, Mourinho's been there. I was going to say Conte. Conte's not there yet. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's there. Now Ten Hag. And a lot of these players haven't performed. So, I mean, it does suggest that there's something wrong with the culture at the club. You know, and I mean, what do you think the biggest issue is? It ownership? Is it the recruitment? I mean, when I mean ownership, I mean, we've seen Neville sort of rip on the Glazers a lot. But at the end of the day, the Glazers, they're responsible for getting the right people in, the be in charge of the whole operation. So if they're not employing the right people, that's an issue. Recruitment, if the recruitment team's not good enough, the manager's going to struggle. And then a lack of direction. If you look at, they went from Mourinho, the Solskjaer, the Ten Hag, 3 managers with 3 completely different styles of play. So, I mean, for you as a fan, how frustrating is it, one? And, I mean, what is the biggest issue that you want to see rectified going forward?
It's so frustrating as a United fan. Like, you think back to the years we were in number 1 club, we could cherry pick who we wanted to sign. You know what I mean? And now that's the City. So, like, the roles are reversed. But, like, you look at that problem over the years. Like, when the Glazers first took over, they bought, like, a medical department and stuff, and Sir Alex was buzzing about it and saying they wouldn't get it. But, like, that's all they've done that I feel like they've come on. So, like, you look at the owners, they're not football people. Then they sign, or they put Ed Woodward in charge of the whole football operation, run the club.
Do you think, sorry, Adam, sorry to interrupt you, but do you think back then when Ferguson was there, the Glazers left a lot of the stuff to David Gill and Ferguson, and they ran it, and they 100%. Kept a lot of the flack off the owners?
100%. Because Ferguson was building that squad and had it built, him and David Gill. You know, I think the Glazers were just sitting in the background kind of, and they were doing all the work. And then once they went, you seen the problems. Getting Woodward in, hasn't a football brain, going for commercial signings and stuff like Alexis Sanchez, stuff like that, like just completely out of the blue, just for they sell shirts. And that even stems to the day as well, but I'll get there. But so going from there, and then now after the Super League stuff, you have all the protests and stuff, and then they're on about changing, bringing fans on board and stuff. And then they go and recruit Richard Arnold, who is now running the club, who actually came through marketing, I'm nearly sure. So that's an old man who's like, does he have a football brain in him? They run this club properly. So, like, it's same kind of problem, I think, like going up. I don't think Richard Arnold's run that, even the way the Greenwood stuff was mad, like, but even the way that was kind of dealt with, and even the takeover and stuff, it just...
What do you think, now I was going to say to you, what do you think about Radcliffe coming on? Because we're hearing now that Ten Hag's going to be under a bit more pressure with him coming on. If results don't change quickly, he may have a big say in that. So, I mean, what do you think on his influence now?
So, I don't want it to happen, if I'm being honest. I wanted the Qataris just to take over it, wipe off the debt, and then they can put the money on it. Whereas the Radcliffe thing, I think it can get so messy. The only good thing I kind of think, right, and I was thinking about it today, was apparently Jim Radcliffe, whenever he was like going to the talks and stuff, they buy a percentage. Like, he was looking at that team being like, how have you spent 500 million in that squad, and that's what you have. And he said about the Casemiro signing, being like, why are you paying that much money for a player at that age on that contract? Which I kind of didn't believe at the time. I thought it was wrong, but now the more I look at it, and like, we bought Casemiro, right? And Real Madrid, this is the difference. They invest that money that summer, and they took Mendy and Calavinga. Was it? Do you know what I mean? And then a year later, go sign Bellingham. Whereas we're getting Casemiro, who's, don't get me wrong, old, a year or two left on him, but like that money does not justify that signing. Like you can see,
it would have made more sense going and signing Declan Rice.
You know what I mean?
I've said this about United before, that Varane and Casemiro, if they were that good, Madrid, they'd still be at Madrid. And
exactly.
That's why United need to remember who they are. Like, no, they're a massive football club and they shouldn't be. But, you know, it doesn't really just come down to money. It's down to, and not just the back end. Someone's making decisions. So where's the manager? Because, like, United can still fish in the big pool with all the big clubs. Like, if you look at players that like Newcastle have signed, I'm going to say Tonali because he's been looked good, but he's going to get banned for 10 months. But, like, you have him, Isak, that brought on as a striker. He's looked great. And the way that he's drop-fed him onto the team has been brilliant from Eddie Howe. You know, a manager that was available as well throughout this bad run that United's had. You know, even people like Madison going to Spurs, Harvey Barnes was available. But they're going for the Hollywood signings because, we're going to get Sancho. Now, Sancho did do well in Germany, but there was a reason that we had a buyback clause on him, and we says no. That would kind of set alarm bells off for me, you know, to be honest.
And that's the thing, Jimmy, right? For a player that was causing problems in Germany, he's caused problems in the England team, and now causing problems in the... As no one... I mean, what do you think the biggest problem is? Because, I mean, if you looked at... I mean, they couldn't investigate it because surely it would have been red flag after red flag after red flag, so they couldn't have done the due diligence on it. So, I mean, what do you think is the biggest issue at United?
Just leadership. There's nobody taking... Like, I can guarantee you now, Sancho, see, the Sancho situation happened at Man City. It wouldn't have been dealt with. We dealt with it before, where he come out and says, if he's not going on a trip to America, I'm going. And he was in line to go to that trip, and Pep just told him away he goes. Sent him to Dortmund. If the same thing had happened at Man City, what happened over the summer, he wouldn't be a bench. He wouldn't be sitting in the still training with the squad. He'd have been gone. We would have made sure there was a deal done. Same as what we did with Mendy. You know, when all that was going on, he wasn't talked about. He wasn't spoken about. It was all done behind closed doors, and we led from the front on it. That's what United's lacking, is leadership. You know, someone's making decisions, and they're bad decisions, whether it's down to the players that they're buying, or it's down to the player, how they're treating the players, how they're reacting. Like, don't get me wrong, look, it was on the papers there not that long ago. Kyle Walker had his cock out in some nightclub. You know what I mean? But it was dealt with properly. We don't let it get out. We don't let it turn into a big, massive story, and we get it back on the football pitch, and people forget about it. You know what I mean? Whereas kind of United is like they're doing to be seen to be doing stuff, and it's not the right way of dealing with. You know what I mean? And it seems to be every situation that comes up with United, it seems to be the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, lads, we're going to move on and talk about Man City. Kieran Preston's in the chat. He's saying be very quiet about my man Núñez. We'll get into that later on towards the end of the show. I mean, Man City, I mean, they are out for more history this season. I mean, they're aiming to be the first team. They won 4 Premier Leagues in a row, Jamie. I mean, it was a very, very good start in terms of results. Maybe the performances weren't at the level we expect from Man City, but they do tend to be slow starters in that regard. But they've had a bit of a bump since, you know, losing to Wolves, losing to Arsenal. They fell over the line in the Brighton game in the end, but a good result nevertheless. I mean, how are you feeling about Man City at the minute coming into this game? I mean, I can't remember. I know there's been a lot of Manchester derbies, but I mean, especially going to Old Trafford, I have never seen so many Man United fans and so many pundits. I mean, I looked at Chris Sutton's predictions today and the boy at the Sky Sports, and they both says 5-0 Man City and 5-1. Everybody seemed to think that City are going to completely obliterate United. So, I mean, how do you feel coming into this? I mean, do you think them players will be feeling a bit of pressure because United have been really struggling? They've every game they've won in the Champions League and Premier League has been by 1 goal against the likes of Copenhagen, Brentford. They had to come back from 2-0 down against Forest. Sheffield United and Burnley, they had to script 1-0 ones away from home. So it's been hard work for them. So, I mean, how are you feeling about this game at the weekend?
I'm confident. I'm confident that we're going to go and do the job, but we are certainly not playing to our best at all. You know, we only had to watch this midweek against Young Boys. No, I'm sure that plastic pitch didn't help. You know, there's a lot of slipping and sliding, but you know, we're just not free flowing the way we were at the end of last season. But that is the way we do it. You know, we always find ourselves chasing at Christmas, and then we just do our massive run from January to March. It's kind of like it's become our trademark. But against United, it depends what United come to do. To be honest with you, I think like United's been guilty of coming to try and play football against teams they can't do it against, and they get battered. They done it last season. We put 6 past them, and I think if they sit on deep, you know, they'll make it hard for us. I think that'll be their best way. I don't see it being 5-0 or 6-0 anything like that. I think it'll be a tight enough game on the scoreline, but I think we'll dominate and nick it 1 or 2.
Adam, what about you? I mean, do you see this Man City team? I mean, you'd be foolish they roll it out. I mean, they defy all the odds every season. I mean, even when they're it seems they're 5 or 6 points behind. Even last year they were 8 or 9 behind at one point. Come back against an Arsenal team that doesn't look like they were going to slip. And to be fair, I think any other season, Arsenal's slip was made to look bad because of how good Man City were. I don't think it wasn't like a Newcastle collapse all 8 years ago when they were 12 points clear United at Christmas. City won 14 games in a row, and Arsenal had a money blip of a 3 or 4 games, and that's what cost them in the end. I mean, do you see Man City going and doing it this year again?
Not as much, but I still do think they're the team to beat. I do think they let a lot of good players go this summer, and I don't think that's the strength and depth is still there. You have that many backup players that can easily come on and do a job and would start in any other top 6 team. I don't think they recruited as well as they should have, I think, but I still do think they're the team to beat. You know what I mean? Like, there's enough in that squad to easily go on and win that Premier League again, and they have the experience of doing it as well. But for going on this Sunday, like, I do not have a hope. Like, I may as well. I could concede the game 2-0 now. That's how
you know what? Funny enough, I was listening to Talk Sport Marcus morning, and a lot of United fans are ringing up says we'll take 2-0 now. We'll take a 2-0 defeat. I mean, that is where United fans are at.
They're getting the cry on early.
No, but that tells you, but there's not a lot of confidence, and I think when that is like that, the first person that's in trouble is the manager, and we'll come on that again. But I mean, Adam makes a great point, Jamie, because it's on my notes here. I mean, Gundogan and Mahrez were massive players over the last few years, especially Gundogan in the back end of them seasons. There was two seasons in particular. He was fantastic in them final run-ins. And he didn't always actually start in the first half of the season. It was almost like he was held back. And even the same with De Bruyne last year. He was carrying an injury and he come back. And obviously, it's a more serious injury this year. And you'd expect him to come back and expect De Bruyne to be De Bruyne. But he's coming back from a more serious one this time. So it's not guaranteed. But I mean, Kovacic come on and Doku come on. And from what I've seen in Doku, he is good. Kovacic, I'm not convinced as at the level. I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, is this Man City squad as strong as previous years?
I do think it is actually, and I think Doku's a fantastic replacement for Mahrez. To be honest with you, Mahrez is someone I'm a big fan of, but his time was done. I was happy enough to see Mahrez out of all the players that we've lost over the last 2 seasons. We lost Sterling and Gabriel Jesus. Mahrez was the one I was kind of thinking, right, your time's up. I thought he was quite wasteful in front of goal. He didn't assist a lot. Where I think Doku reminds me a lot more of a Sterling in his prime. Just running at defenders, causing problems. I think but you look back at this season and you'll see how many penalties he's won. He just runs boys ragged. That's when you get your goals in the 89th, 90th minute that you need. Because he's just ran boys tired. Like, you know what I mean? Gundogan, massive loss. Gundogan's an absolute class act. I don't think Kovacic is his level, but I do think Kovacic is a good signing. I think he has experience. He's won 5 Champions Leagues. He's been there. He's done it. So for them late matches in the season where you need an experienced head to come on, he's just a man for that. And he does look good. We need to find a way of playing him. For me personally, he should be rotating with Rodri. I think he's better sitting. He's
not really a Gundogan type of player where he arrives and scores goals.
Gundogan, there's very few about. The ideal replacement for Gundogan was Bellingham. In my opinion, that plays the role just like him very well, box to box, like a proper number 8. We don't have a lot of them about anymore. But I still think Kovacic is a good signing. The jury's out on Matheus Nunes from Wolves. He's not done a lot for me. He looks like he's like a man down at times, to be honest with you. He's not up to speed.
He's one of them players. I think he probably looks better than what he is.
Do you know what? I don't know. It's hard to tell because there is that thing about Pep's players. It takes a year to get up to speed, and he falls under that category because he takes game over. You know what I mean? He wants to dictate the play, so it will take him a while. So look, I'll give him a chance. But I think, like I says, I think Doku's come on. He's looked great. I think Kovacic is a good signing, and Guardiola at the back as well. I think he's another very good signing. He's only 21. He's looked better and better. He impresses me every time he plays. So it's one of him. He's balling, and the fact that he plays on the left most of the time, he's kind of getting him his match experience. By the time he's 23, 24, he'll be our main centre half. You know what I mean? He looks apart. Like,
I mean, Jamie, where do you think the priorities lie this year? I mean, it's very unlikely they'll go into a treble again. It's very, very hard to do, as we know. So, I mean, do you think Pep will go put everything into the Premier League this year, and if it means maybe sacrificing the FA Cup and the Champions League, just to win the league and make that history, he would do it?
I think so. I think the league is your bread and butter, especially now we've got the monkey off our back with the Champions League. The league has the bread and butter. But I think the World Club Championships as well is going to be a big one. That, when they go out, and they'll want to do well in that as well. But that'll take its toll. A lot of travelling. And when's that starts? At December time as well. That starts. So
December and around Christmas time,
so you know what I mean, and then Christmas running, and then you get into January. So it does take its toll on it. But look, like we know, De Bruyne's not hard to kick the ball all season. You bring him back, he's like a new signing in January. Oscar Bob has come through. He looks good. I think he's going to start getting drop fed into the team. And young Rico Lewis, he's like a new signing as well. The way he's commanded performances, especially in midfield. He looks really, really good.
Final question: any regrets over Palmer leaving?
Do you know what? Funny enough, he's done better at Chelsea than what I thought. See, when he went, I thought that's money for old Rope Air, and I knew Bob was coming through, and Rico Lewis was coming through, and we just signed Doku. So for Palmer's chances were going to be limited. But
the only thing I can think of, he must have had a conversation with Pep and says, I want to play every week, and Pep couldn't guarantee it, and he moved. That's the only way. And he must fancy himself on making the Euros. He must see that or whatever.
And why not? And when the money was put on the table, at the end of the day, if a club was coming on and bidding, was it 30-something million?
45 million they got from 45.
It's one of them. If you had said to me in the summer, you get 30, you take a hand at all. He's not done anything. He's not proven himself. He's
42.5 million initially with 5 million add-ons possible.
And as a player, they know that a club's putting that kind of money on you. It's flattering, and you think, what? It's a big club, a great manager, and of course you're going to jump at the opportunity. So I don't blame him for going at all. But I do think we might love to regret him. He looks very, very good.
Right, lads, it's time for the main event of the evening. I know there's a lot of people waiting for this. I mean, before we get into it, Adam, for you, looking at the two 11s, we're going to get into it and pick who we prefer now. But who do you think has the better team? From 99 to now. It's two very different generations, two very different playing styles, two very different formations. Where 4-4-2 was traditional back in. Now it's like a 4-3-3, and that makes it quite difficult, especially in the midfield and attacking areas. But in terms of quality, who do you think has the better?
I'm going to be biased here, but I'm going to say United. Although I was 6-7 going up when they were winning that, or even younger, but kind of it's that nostalgia, kind of going up watching Beckham, Scholes, Keane. For me, I think they always find a way to win. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They always had players who would step up. But seeing that City team there last year and over the years, it was always building and building and building. You could almost predict the Champions League coming. Do you know what I mean? Every year they were getting closer and closer. It was just a matter of time. But for me, it's my United bias. I will always say that 99 team and the first time they do it.
Jamie, what about you? I suppose you can't really highlight they were the first team. That Man City team weren't even were they only coming through it. They're only babies at the time. Someone. So what about you, Jamie? You'll probably argue that Man City are the better to watch, done it a better way. Maybe you could even argue now that teams are stronger around them. So who do you think has the most quality?
You know what? It's such a tough one, to be honest with you. Because obviously I grew up as a City fan, and in '99, what were we, Division 2? So it was one of them. So when you looked at when I watched football, I watched the United team, and they were the best team about. It's very difficult. What I was the best way I can describe it, it's very difficult to rule out the players of '99. But if it came down to a game, I think the treble winners of Man City would beat that team of '99. I think they'd be too fast for them. I think they'd be too fast for them, and I think they would just keep the ball off them. I think especially if you look at the back line, and look, United's had a lot of players, especially in defence, and I'm going to call it out. Peter Schmeichel and Nets gets a lot more praise than what they should. He was a risky
hold that thought, because you know what? That's where we're going to start. So we're going to start with the goalkeepers. Two very different goalkeepers. Again, from two very different generations. Schmeichel's generation would have been all about keeping the ball out of the net, whereas now with Pep, and he did change this to a certain extent, of a goalkeeper having to be good with his feet. And for me, he's definitely got the best goalkeeper in the world with his feet. Liverpool fans will argue Alisson as the better goalkeeper, and he starts for Brazil, but I'm sure Jamie will have something to say about that. Personally, I'm a massive Ederson fan, but Adam, between the two goalkeepers, I know, again, it's difficult because we would have been young at the time, but there's enough archive footage and we've seen enough of these games to probably grasp what Schmeichel was like. You know, who do you think out of the two would be more suited to this team?
It's tough again because you're talking about two different generations.
And I don't want you to think about now, because it would be very unfair if he says we're going to focus on what football's like now, because obviously Ederson would definitely get on because it's all about playing your feet. But I want you to think if Schmeichel grew up in this generation, you'd have to imagine he would have been learning this way as well. So, I mean, for you, who would you think would have been the better?
For me, and again, it's probably being a bit biased, but I would go Schmeichel. I think he had that Ederson's unbelievable. Like, I rate him so highly too. But I think as a player or someone in the dressing room, I think Schmeichel had that kind of charisma about him where it's like, you know, that man's a leader, kind of, or like, you know, I just think he's.
He took on Roy Keane one time, didn't he?
You know what I mean? I did. But it's that kind of like, you look back and you know he has your back kind of thing. Whereas, don't get me wrong, Ederson's unbelievable. I just don't think he's like the levels of like a De Bruyne, a Haaland, kind of like, although he's unbelievable. I'm basing this off the character of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you think and your Schmeichel was more important to that United team than Ederson as the Man City team? Basically, right. Jamie, what about you? I mean, you're a massive Ederson fan. You've had a wee bit of a say on Schmeichel. Do you know what? We'll let you finish off what you were saying about Schmeichel there, actually.
No, I just think if you look back at the time, you know, there's United. Schmeichel went through a lot of spells. Now, again, football was different and for the better as well, because if a keeper today had the same kind of poor spell that Schmeichel had a few of over their career, and it happens because if you only look back at certain keepers, the likes of Robinson when he was at Spurs, he went through a stale patch and he moved on and played some great. He was a great goalkeeper again at Blackburn. Schmeichel kind of went stale at United and then came good again. You don't get that opportunity nowadays. So, you know, I'm being critical of him, but it was just because football was different as well. He was a very, very good keeper, and it's very, very difficult to pick Ederson over Schmeichel based on the careers that they both had and the longevity of Schmeichel's career. And it's the same with the rest of the squad. But if you're asking me who I think is just a better goalie there and then, I'll go Ederson, because I think he just has more to his game. He's a great shot stopper. He distributes the ball very, very well. You know, Ederson to me doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's probably the only City player that doesn't get the credit he deserves because Alisson's there. For me, I have Ederson all day long over Alisson. I think he's a lot better than him. I think he's a better shot stopper. He closes down his box better and he moves the ball far, far better.
I agree. I mean, I think you have to put Ederson on based on we don't know what Schmeichel would have been like with his feet. So I think for that
But I do agree that Schmeichel, again, is what United's lacking at this moment in time. He's a character and he's a leader. I know Ederson, he has it from what I've read and seen. He's a leader as well in the camp. He's not a roarer and shouter the way Schmeichel is, you know, but he's, you know, Schmeichel is what United need at this moment in time.
I'm just trying to think if this United team were playing the Premier League now, would Schmeichel be able to come off his line the way Ederson would, stuff like that there? I'm just not sure he would be able to. I think he's a very good shot stopper, but I don't see that sort of, you know, would he be he couldn't really be a sweeper keeper, I don't think. But again, it's harsh because during that era, you wouldn't have had to do that. But I think for that very reason, I'm going to have to go with Ederson. Now, this is a very interesting one. Possibly two of England's best ever right backs coming up against each other. Gary Neville, an absolute stalwart at Man United, won everything numerous times, and he was never displaced out of that United team. For all the amount of changes that United had, he was there until he retired, really. And Kyle Walker, who, you know, was brilliant at Spurs, left Spurs, they won trophies, and I think in the end, Harry Kane was contacting him a few times because he couldn't believe how much he was winning. And, you know, he was the first player to leave that Pochettino team. And then he went on and he actually improved for how good he was at Spurs. He went up on a few levels at Man City. And these credit, even with Alexa Trent, Alexander-Arnold, and Reece James coming through, he's held down that England place as well. So, I mean, and he's the only player I've ever seen to keep Mbappe quiet. So, for me, I'm probably settling this already, but for me, I'd be heavily favouring Walker. But, Adam, how do you feel about this one?
I think, again, Walker's unbelievable, and that pace he has is frightening too, which is like up against the likes of Mbappe and all, completely nullifies him. I think, like, over a career, I think Gary Neville's probably had the better career. Like you said, like, was always on that team and stuff. But, like, if you look at the both of them on their best seasons or their best form, I probably would go Walker. So would.
I think you know what though. The Neville's credit, he wasn't blessed with Walker's pace, so therefore he probably had to be an even better defender. And for him to maintain what he did for all them years was impressive, Jamie, wasn't it?
I was Neville cracking defender. No, he really was. But I think Walker's for me, Walker sets the benchmark of what it is now. Neville, again, it's time and eras. You know what I mean? Neville would have, as much as what he was deemed as an attacking fullback back in as well. You know, he's nothing in comparison to what the fullbacks are today. And for me, Walker's the pinnacle. You know, you touched on Mbappe, Vinicius Jr. didn't get a snuff. You know, when he marked them, you know, you're talking what matches where Walker's been absolutely world class. And for me, he's the mould for what a modern day fullback should be. Gary Neville was brilliant too. Don't get me wrong. And again, we're talking eras, and has that era, he was fantastic. And it's hard to say, could he have kicked on in this era and been a wee bit more where you're playing practically as a centre midfielder when you're out of possession? You know what I mean? So he was a great defender too, Neville. But for me, Walker hands down in this one.
Callum saying he gets Michael on that team after what Jamie said about Austin. He must have said something about that. Liverpool fans are going for you, Jamie. I tell you what,
Nothing
you can't say anything about Liverpool fans in this channel without them coming back at you, and they hold it against you. Honestly, they hold it against you. That's the thing. Moving on to left back, Dennis Irwin or Nathan Ake. Now, Ake done an outstanding job last year of falling in that left back role when Zinchenko left. Pep kind of changed his system, went with like 4 centre backs across the back 4 to get the control. And, you know, again, it was another genius idea that worked for Pep. Some have tried it since and it hasn't worked. Just shows you how good Pep is. But Dennis Irwin, I mean, the reports we hear, I've seen some of them, but I mean, every Man United player to play with him talks about him. His goal scoring ability from left back, and he played right back at times, was incredible. I mean, Adam, who wins this one for you?
For me, being Irish as well, I'm going to go Dennis Irwin. I do think Ake's classic, and coming from Bournemouth and all, like his career just skyrocketed and he's so improved. But I always like Keane always talks about Dennis Irwin and stuff. And again, I was young whenever he was playing, but just being Irish, I'm going to go Dennis Irwin.
Jamie?
Nah, I agree. I would go Dennis Irwin on that one. And the reason being, Ake played left back last season. He's not a left back by trade. He's a fantastic player. You know, I watched him live there. I went to the Aviva for the Ireland-Holland match, and he was brilliant that game as well. You know, I think he's a great, big, athletic player. But Irwin, he's a career left back, and he could do it all. He could score free kicks, no penalties. Again, it's an era thing. Would he have played in this era? I don't know. But to be honest with you, will Ake be our left back next year? Maybe not, because he's a centre half. Yeah. So I'll go with Irwin on that one.
Kieran agrees. He says Irwin move on to the next position. He's itching to see this team. So I know he's gonna have his piece to say. I wonder would Steven Gerrard get in this combined 11, lads? That's what the ass meets. Centre backs. We've got Jaap Stam and Ronnie Johnson from United, and John Stones and Diaz from centre back. 4 good players on their right. All have different qualities. I mean, we know what Stam was like. No nonsense. He would get through if he had to. And then you look at the likes of Stones, more of a ball playing. So again, different eras. I mean, Adam, how do you feel about these? I mean, who would be the 2 you would pick from them 4?
The 2 for me would have to be Jaap Stam and Ruben Diaz. Were the doubts for me. I think Jaap Stam would be the equivalent of Van Dijk back then. You know what I mean? Just an absolute unit. Went on, won numerous Champions Leagues and stuff. And then Ruben Diaz too. I just think I wouldn't mind Stones in there as well, alongside him, more that ball playing out now in the modern day where you have to play from the back and stuff and be comfortable with. But there's just something about Ruben Diaz, I think, unbelievable, proper warrior as well too. So like, I'd absolutely kill for them too in a centre back pairing. And I know if you're in that midfield, you're well covered with both of them behind you. You know what I mean? One pressing or one sitting back, you both have them there. But so that'd be my 2 kind of.
Adam, you were saying about Diaz there. A lot of talk from a lot of fans at the minute who the best centre back in the league is. Do you think currently it is Diaz?
I do think like Van Dijk's still up there, but no, I don't think it definitely has dropped that level from them winning the Premier League and winning the Champions League and then getting that injury. I don't think he's got back to that form, but like if I could take anyone, maybe Ruben Diaz. I'm a massive fan of him. I think he's unbelievable and such a good signing too.
Stam and Diaz for Adam. Jamie, how about you? I'm going Diaz and Stones. I'm keeping it steady for this one. And the reason being, Stam and Janssen, again, we've talked there, as we've said it in every player, but Stam and Janssen defended. They were Harry Maguire's back in. You know what I mean? That's what they were. They tackled, they headed. They didn't play fantastic football, and I think you have Stones and Diaz, everything goes through them. If you look at how high they play, You know, they're outstanding. If you could do how many touches of the ball them two would get over Stam and Janssen, you know. And you talked about Diaz. As much as I rate Diaz extremely highly, I think he's fantastic. See, for me, John Stone's the best centre half in the Premier League. He can do it all, and he's the epitome of what a modern day centre half should be. They remind me of Rio and Vidic. And people would say the same. A lot of United fans have heard say Vidic was the best defender they had. For me, Rio's the best Premier League defender ever. You know, he's an absolute ball player, like, and I think Stones falls under that category. I think he was an easy target for a while when City were going through a transition. But for me, that's the two best centre halves at the moment. Like, so I would put them in my 11.
When I did this, my back five was Ederson, Walker, Stam, Diaz, and Urban. So I'll have to say with Adam on this one and go with Stam, just based on the fact of I think, again, it's hard because you have to try. I think if Stam was in this era, he would be better on the ball, and he has that defensive steel.
I don't think he would be.
I
don't think he was a fantastic ball player.
As much as I think Stones is a great ball playing, and he's very good at reading the game, I just think in a battle, someone like Jaap Stam, he's somebody you want in your team.
That's for me. I think it's like the Van Dijk would be a very similar player in this area compared to that. Do you know what I mean?
Sorry, Jamie, you were on there.
No, I was just saying. I don't think Stam would be, because I know he had a falling out with Ferguson. They got shipped out, but he wasn't. They moved on to better things. They replaced them well. They had better defenders coming on. So for me, I think Stam, there's a bit more. There's a bit more romance about his memory than what he actually done on the pitch. To be totally honest with you, like he's a very good defender. But
Jaap Stam or John Stones, boys, he's gonna be saying that. Moving on to midfield, and I mean, this is where it gets really, really tricky. Now, you can move around these midfield and attackers if you want, because some of them did kind of play in different positions. Like Beckham, he played midfield, he played off the right. Bernardo Silva's played off the right and midfield, so I will let you have a wee look at them. There's your attackers and your midfielders, but you probably have a fair idea of the players anyway. I mean, I think the first thing we need to agree on is, do you want to play a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3? Now, playing a 4-4-2 would have let you to get maybe two strikers on the team, but playing a 4-3-3 will let you have more midfielders and more wingers. So, I mean, how do you feel about that? For me, when I done it, I went with a 4-3-3.
I would go. Well, it's hard to tell, to be honest with you. Because I think there's one or two of them you're just kind of ramming on for the sake of ramming on. But if you went with a 4, if you kept it with the 99, I would have gone. And again, it's hard because obviously I'm a City fan. I'm going to go more United in this, just because of what they've done in the game. I would go Becks and Giggs, Scholes and De Bruyne in the middle. Keane and De Bruyne, in the middle.
Keane and De Bruyne. So are you playing a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3?
4-4-2.
We're going to play 4-4-2, right? Mm-hmm. So your 4 is Becks on the right, Giggs on the left, and King and De Bruyne. Adam, how about you?
So I'm very similar. So I am going, and this will lead into my striker straight after this because it's the way I'm playing. So I'm going Keane and Scholes in the middle, Beckham and Giggs on the wide. But the way I play then up top is I'd have Haaland, but De Bruyne kind of just dropping them behind. And that pivot in front of the two CMs, almost like a cam.
So like a 4-4-1-1.
Basically.
Would you go that same way, Jamie? Would you be playing De Bruyne off Haaland?
I would. Well, who we got up top? See, I was going to my front two. I would be going with two strikers. Would have been Haaland and Cole, just based on.
The
fact that Haaland scored 50 goals in our treble campaign, you can't leave him out. You know what I mean? But York, Cole, Sheringham, Solskjaer, all great strikers. But Cole, he's his second or third top goal scorer in the Premier League ever. You can't just leave him out. You know what I mean? So third. So he was a great striker. As was York, as was Sheringham, Solskjaer. The reason it's hard to put the City boys on an attacking sense because of what Grealish and Foden especially. They're young. It was the first real seasons. It was very difficult. They pick them over Andy Cole. But we might look back at this and do it again.
So your only difference was you had played King and De Bruyne in the middle, whereas Adam favoured playing the 3. So you had went with Andy Cole over Scholes. So I mean, when I actually did it today, I actually went for a 4-3-3. I went with King, Scholes, and De Bruyne. I went with Becks on the right, Haaland up front. And do you know what? People will think I'm mad, but I actually played Foden off the left because I was trying to think about his potential. I know we're trying to but I think this lad Foden's going to be a very special player. And I think back to when Giggs was that age. Foden, I look today, he's already scored 36 goals in the Premier League, 21 assists. He's only 23. Giggs has scored 106 goals. I think, I think there's every chance Foden will get to that level. So when I was basing it on that, and I think Foden as well, technically, he can play anywhere. But I mean, it's up for debate. I mean, everybody had I think everyone had kind of the same 8 or 9. There was a couple of others that had players on.
It's hard. I'm picking on other than Haaland because he scored 50 goals. I'm looking at career.
This is one I found very difficult today because I thought it was very difficult to leave him out, but I went with Roy Keane because of his character. But Callum makes a good point. I mean, it's hard to leave Rodri out of this team, Jamie, isn't it?
100%. But again, I'm not picking it on what they done on the road because, like I said from the very start, the Man City team that won the treble would beat the United team that won the treble. But I'm looking at the career. You can't not have Giggs on there. You can't not have Roy Keane on there. They've done so much for the game. David Beckham as well. They go and but I'm always a big fan of Beckham. To be honest with you, I think he's underrated. And it's not. I know there's a few people jumping on my side because I've watched the documentary, but he was a great player. He really was. A lot of people on his case. Great career. So it's very difficult to leave them boys out. Andy Cole was the same. And Andy Cole played for City for a while. And he was a good striker for us at that time. So I got a wee soft spot for him. But all of that, Rodri, 100% get it.
I do think Jimmy's right. Like, we are kind of them going forward. Like, we are basing that off the career because we've seen the career. But like you said, like in 5 years, you could look at Foden, could just turn into an absolute freak.
I mean, Adam, you've met Foden. Like, I mean, do you sense the same? And well, he obviously looks a very nice fella, and he's very good with his feet. But do you sense that mentality in him too? That he wants to be one of the best.
For me, like I said in the last time, it's like, we were on the pitch and stuff. It was just such like a kid with a ball, and like he must have shot me. Like, no, I want to keep hitting it until I score. Like he was just mad about football. Like, and don't get me wrong, he's proper professional too. But like, I just didn't see like. I don't know what. Just for me personally, like I didn't.
You have to mature. You have to mature as a footballer. Yet.
Mature a bit more as a football. Not mature a bit more, but like mature to get to that level. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like the man can play anywhere, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? He'll do the job, but just he's still so young. Do you know what I mean? So like, I'd love to. I think down the line you would then look at it again. Do you know what I mean? He could go on and win another treble. Do you know what I mean? Then there's absolutely no denying that he would get on that team. But
Kieran's saying he would go with Bex, Giggs, De Bruyne, and Gerrard. Fuck, Jesus, right. Do you think Gerrard would get on? I'll just say they're on here about Gerrard. They're saying Gerrard should get on the team. Would Gerrard get on that team?
For me, tough with De Bruyne.
For me, I think you need to win a Premier League to get on that.
I really Gerrard highly, and there's always that debate. There's Scholes, Gerrard, Lampard. Scholes is third in my one. No, it's always that. I would have Scholes third. Now, I think nowadays you have to put De Bruyne into the mix. And De Bruyne is obviously,
De Bruyne can do it all. De Bruyne can do it all, can't he? De Bruyne can do it all.
But I think Scholes is one of them. I look at Gerrard. He could do everything as well. But he was a runner. Lampard was the best finisher. The amount of goals he scored. Like, and it was mad at the credit. He doesn't get the credit he deserves either because people talk about your Xavis and your Iniestas at Barca at that time. They didn't get the numbers that Frank Lampard got. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you look at the success Chelsea had at that time as well, he was so influential.
Lampard was the greatest goal scorer. Lampard was the greatest goal scorer midfielder ever come through the Premier League, and he had an art to what he did. He wasn't the most technically gifted player, but his brain was incredible.
His timing of his runs was phenomenal.
And if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. So I mean,
exactly.
We've one more thing to sort out. Who is going to be in the dugout for this managing this team? Would it be Ferguson or Guardiola? Adam?
For me, have to be Ferguson. He done it first. He knows the ropes. Pep's seen what Ferguson done. You know what I mean? Aspired to be him. But no, don't get me wrong, Pep. For me, my argument would be that Alex Ferguson built that team. Whereas, and I don't want to have a dig, but the money that bought that City team, I think there were two different eras as well. Don't get me wrong, money's far more pumped into the game now. But I'm just thinking, like, could Pep do it with that?
You say that, right? But Teddy Sheringham was signed for $3.5 million from Spurs. That was big money back then. Andy Cole was spent. So United did go out, maybe not to the same extent, but money wasn't as big. But they did always go and get the best players too, didn't they?
100%. And that's where I think though we And I don't, like I said, not having a pop, but we earned that right to be able to spend that money. Do you know what I mean? Whereas like just because a takeover doesn't mean, like you see it with Newcastle now, don't get me wrong, back in the day, but like how they have transformed just under new owners. Do you know what I mean?
Jamie, I mean, two great managers, two of the best we'll ever see. Two very different types of manager. I mean, Ferguson, man management skills was incredible. You know, if you listen to Roy Keane, a lot of the coaches did the training. He came on, watched, picked the play. He managed all these big characters. And David Gill had a big hand in it. Pep Guardiola, more hands-on. And if you look at all sort of the disciples of Pep, you know, you look at the boy at Leicester, he's flying with Leicester. Maresca, you look at Arteta at Arsenal, all these boys are flying. And Guardiola, to a certain extent, has changed football. All these different systems, the way players are playing, fullbacks playing as midfielders. It's incredible, playing with a false nine. He's managed to do it all. I mean, does that just give him the edge over Ferguson?
It's very difficult to say I'll take Pep over Fergie. What Fergie done again in the longevity and the career he had was outstanding. Do I think that, you know, the one thing, you know, you touched on money. I don't think the money is the issue because, you know, throughout his reign at United, he broke the transfer record numerous times. You know, he brought on big players. No, I know he won a lot up to that stage with the class of '92.
Right. Towards the end, he was bringing in Berbatov for 30 million. So, you know.
Exactly. Tevez was big bucks, you know, and then, you know, all these, and he didn't even stay. He wasn't even there, like, proper signed. He spent a lot of money, that third party. What I call Rooney was big money. Rio Ferdinand was big money. So he spent a lot of money and he broke the mold in that sense. But it's very difficult to say you take Pep over Ferguson. But what will be the telling factor, again, when we look back is Ferguson left and United's fallen apart. Where if you look at what Guardiola's doing, and you've touched on the boys that coached under him, and he has a way, and he's changed football and the style of football that everybody else is a pretender to Pep. And then there's these disciples that he's trained up, in your Artetas and Maresca and Xavi, and you know. But what'll happen when he leaves City? And I think that'll tell the tale that he's put a blueprint there, an infrastructure that City won't fall off. You know, whoever comes in will follow what he's done. He's actually really built a dynasty.
You know what, Jamie? That was my last question, and you sort of stole the merch of mine. Do you think, is there any risk of what's happened at United happened to City when Pep leaves?
No, there's a risk. There's always a risk. You know, football's fluid. Things change. You know what I mean? And as you've seen, you know, I'm sure when Fergie left, they didn't think that United would fall as far as they have because there was people in place. You know, they run the club, but I think, you know, we done this before we got Guardiola, and this was all part of the plan at City when we got his name, Tiki Baglerian in, and they got in a couple of the Barcelona boys in academy prospects to bring them in.
Before Pep, to a certain extent, City did have success, but it was sort of, they had won it and then they would drop a year and then won it, drop a year. No, the longevity wasn't really there.
When Chelsea done it, you know,
the consistency wasn't there. So,
but a good manager, and it lasted so long. But I think behind the scenes they were working. They kind of built this blueprint. It was they had the academy, and if you look at the players who were coming in, and if you look at the players who were selling out of our academy for big money, they aren't even kicking a ball for City. You know, but the way we've built the club, the blueprint's there for long-term success. So obviously, we're going to spend a lot of money because top teams spend a lot of money. That's what you have to do. They compete. But you know, we're not sitting here. We'll not sit here in January and say, "Oh, City need to go and buy 6, 7, 8 players." That, you know, maybe you could argue if Liverpool have a bad run, you'll have to say that they'll need to buy that many players. United need a lot of players brought on. You know what I mean? If Spurs are to compete and continue to compete, they're going to need to spend a lot of money. City don't have to do that. You know, we've kind of got a proper solid base, and that's all down to Guardiola. So for the dugout, it's hard to say Guardiola over Ferguson. But if you ask me in 10 years, I don't think it'll even be a question of who's the greatest manager of all time.
Adam, last word to you on this. I mean, we've started hearing from Jamie there. I mean, would that be the expectation and possibly the hope of the rival teams that once Pep leaves, it's very, you know, how you can come on and continue that dominance? I mean, everyone expects City to still be successful, but they've really, you know, under Pellegrini, they were successful. Mancini, they won Premier Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups, but it was sporadic, whereas it's been continued dominance under Guardiola. Do you expect that continuity to still be there after Pep leaves, or do you think it'll come back much more to a level playing field?
It's tough to say, like, because Pep's at the minute in a league of his own. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I do agree that I always think the club should have a playing style, and that should be it. So whatever manager can come in and play that style, but the likes of a manager might come in and say Pep's all that out in attack and flow of football, whereas a manager could come in and be like, I want absolutely none of that. I want to sit back, have teams in the counter, and that could just spiral onto someone else. But like, ideally, like, I don't think it would change too much. Like, you get the right man in, you can take charge, be the main man, and I think they'll be grand. You know what I mean? Whereas we've at the opposite.
Just in regards to this this team, I've gone with Pep for my team because you know why, right? We're talking about all these players, what they're going to be like. I've got Dennis Irwin playing inverted and everything. So having this team with Pep, he's going to coach him when they're being inverted. I've got I've got Jaap Stam playing out of the back. I've got Roy Keane, more disciplined, not as getting as many red cards. And I've got Bex and I've got Foden feeding the ball into Haaland. What a team! What a team! All-time Premier League team would cause a few arguments. You know what we're going to do actually, because there's so much demand for it. I think at Christmas time, Jamie, we're going to get you, Kieran, and maybe somebody else on. Adam, maybe if you fancy it, and we're going to try and pick an all-time Premier League XA.
We'll be here all night. We'll be here
all night with Kieran. It'll be all Liverpool players. It'll be Sammy Hippie at the back, Stephen Gerrard.
Jesus, Carragher. Up front now.
Lads, we're going to finish off by previewing the game, where it's going to be won and lost. Now he's going to be won on Sunday before we fly through the rest of the weekend's predictions. Adam, let's start with you. I mean, where do you think United need to be at their best on Sunday to stop this Man City team? And if they ain't, what's going to happen?
At their best, I think we need Casemiro, and I can't believe it, I'm saying Amrabat. They sit in that two defensive midfielders, sit back, absorb it, and just hit in the counter. Like, none of our players are playing well at the minute. Rashford's terrible. So I'd say keep that tight at the back, like really tight, and just go for the counter. But I do think it'll be easy. Like, I'm going City 3-0 and like a comfortable 3-0.
Jamie, what about you? I mean, Adam's got no confidence whatsoever. I mean, do you think this game, everyone's talking about United need to be at their best? Do you think it's really all about what Man City do?
No, I think United, they need to sit on. I think United's only way of getting any joy is just frustrating City. I think they need to sit deep. And to be honest with you, I'm watching City at the minute. We're struggling in the final third to get that flow that we've had, in last season, and just what we're used to seeing from City. We're not getting that flow, but we're still creating chances. So United will have the proper just dig on, sit deep, and try and annoy us and try and don't keep us out, and then hit us on the counter. This one could go two ways. If we get out and just knock an early goal, they have to come and play, and that just leaves United wide open at the back. You know what I mean? So unless they're happy enough, they lose 1-0. But I don't think any manager worth for salt's going to send a team out to lose 1-0. You know what I mean? You go 1-0, go out and play. Like,
Adam saying he reckons 3-0 Man City. What about you?
I go 2-0 City.
2-0 City. Right, lads, we'll fly through the rest of the weekend's predictions before we aim off. We'll do about another 5 or 10 minutes. Friday night football kicks off in about 55 minutes time. Crystal Palace take on Spurs, aiming to go 5 points clear. Would you believe it after 10 games? Obviously, it's very unlikely. Even if they do one, they will be 5 points clear come end of play Sunday. But it's a nice opportunity for them. Adam, I mean, how impressed have you been with Spurs this year, and do you expect them to get another 3 points tonight?
I do think another 3 points tonight, but I do think they'll coming under the Christmas. I do think they might stumble, and they might pick up a loss, and maybe that will spiral on for a few games, pick up a few draws and stuff. But
do you think we'll learn more about Spurs when they do lose a game?
100%, without a doubt. I think like teams need to lose to see how they adapt with. You know what I mean? Make sure it does not come crashing down. But now they're a lot better. Like, I think Ange just got them playing, and it sounds mad, but Kane going like almost helps them in a way. You know what I mean? But
makes the same Spurs bubbles getting busted tonight at Selhurst Park. Jamie, what about you? Will the bubble be busted, or will it run for at least another week?
No, I think it'll run for another wee while. But no, fair play. Tottenham's been very, very good. Like, they've looked good. They're enjoyable to watch as well for a change. Under Conte for a while, it was just they kind of stuck on that last year. I kind of doom and gloom football. And I agree with what you're saying there, that Kane going, as much as what a player he is, it was just always that will he, won't he? You kind of needed the monkey off your back and just go and just make a decision. And they've gone on and they look great. I don't think they'll be there at the end of the season. I don't think they'll be top 2. But, I think they've massive step forward, and they're building an identity and how they play their football.
You were the only man that I know, including I didn't include me in this, the top Spurs for the top 4. So I mean, you must be happy with that prediction. Lads, quick score predictions for the night. Adam, how do you see it going?
2-0 Spurs.
2-0.
I'll go 3-0. I think they can score a few tonight.
I agree with you, Jamie. I think Palace are very, very poor. I'm going to go for a 3-0 one. 12:30 kickoff tomorrow. Chelsea against Brentford. Jamie, we'll stick with you for this one. Chelsea battered Arsenal for 75 minutes last week. Didn't see the game out. I mean, how impressed were you last week with Chelsea? And I mean, do you think that's the start of the Pochettino now getting his stamp on this team?
I think so. We even got like Mudryk playing well, and I'm not one of the Mudryk bashers. I remember seeing him playing for Ukraine. I was really impressed. He looks a player. It's just getting a system for him. Palmer's doing well. Sterling's back, looking like he's 5 years ago. I think Pochettino's a top manager. It was unfortunate the way it went at Arsenal, but they were by far the better team. But then it just goes to show Arsenal done what top teams do. They found a way. They get back on there. But I have to say, Chelsea, they've impressed me over the last few weeks. And I think that you're going to start, as you just says, I think they're going to start kicking on. I think they could win this. I think they'll win tomorrow. I think it'll be 2-0 to Chelsea.
2-0 Chelsea. Adam, what about you? I mean, can you see Brentford putting up any opposition to Chelsea?
Not really, no. I think Chelsea are kind of starting to find the form, and I think they'll kind of build on that. You know what I mean? Don't think it'll be pretty, but I do think they'll get over the line for it. So I think they're on their way back, but not
as long as they stay strong at the back. I think they do look a bit shaky, back there. But if they stay strong at the back, maybe that's somewhere they do need to strengthen and bring on. But they should probably go for one of the centre halves they let go, and Mark Gahey or Tomori, and bring him back, because the two centre halves that would do a great job at Chelsea.
What I'm going to do is, I know we're about push for time, so we're going to flick through these games very, very quickly, and then we're going to focus on maybe one or two. We'll do in our few minutes, because I know Adam and Jamie are both tied up on it with stuff. So Arsenal, Sheffield United, lads, we think Arsenal won that pretty comfortably.
100%. Hopefully Sheffield United, but I think Arsenal did it.
Big game at the bottom, Bournemouth, Burnley. I mean, big game especially. We're hearing all these reports that Irola could be under serious pressure if Bournemouth don't win this game. How do you see it going, lads?
Flip a coin for me.
Draw.
Well, do you know what? I think Burnley could get the points at least. I think Burnley's been playing the better football, but they're not near clinical enough in front of goal. But I'm going to go Burnley 2-1.
Burnley 2-1. Burnley. Wolves, Newcastle, huge game for Newcastle after the whole Tonali incident. Bit of a setback losing to Dortmund. How do you see this one going, lads?
I'm going to go Newcastle. They've been great, to be honest with you. I've enjoyed watching them. They even the other night they lost. They don't deserve to lose against Dortmund. And they've got the group of death in the Champions League, and they don't look one but out of place. I think they'll get 3 points here. I think it could be a romp. To be honest with you, I think it could be 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Adam, West Ham, Everton. How do you see that one going?
I'm going to go West Ham. I think West Ham at home as well too. Everton find not as still down there, but getting away from that relegation. But still think West Ham will be too strong for them.
West Ham too strong. Jamie will give us one. Do you Villa, Luton? Villa are flying at home again.
Villa,
great
Villa, away. Like Newcastle, good to watch, enjoyable to watch. They're playing fast on the wings. They're looking good. Another City prospect there, Douglas Luiz, scoring all the goals. 6 games in a bounce. He's matched York's record. I know he never really came through our academy, but we saw him though. But I think Villa again 2 or 3.
Brighton, Fulham. Adam, how do you see that one go?
Brighton for me. I think they're a really good team. Even when they played us, they absolutely played us off the park. They have a good system as well too. So, for me, Brighton.
Liverpool, Forest. Before we get into that, lads, quickly, there was a bit of a debate going on today. Darwin Núñez, where does he rank amongst Premier League strikers at the minute? I mean, very talented, but we've seen his miss last night. He's very unreliable in front of goal. I mean, is he the answer long term for Liverpool in terms of that number 9 role?
He could be, but not. He's one of them. Like he shouldn't be on any rank. To be honest with you, he's a million miles
actually,
off.
Somebody told me today, if you're looking at out-and-out strikers, Liverpool fan, believe it or not, says only Haaland is better.
For me, no.
You're trying to find an out-and-out striker's job is they score goals, and
I
you're
agree.
trying to find these comparisons. But he looks. He's one of them. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. He's kind of, even when he's on the box, he's kind of. Do you know what? He actually reminds me of, and it's probably giving him a lot of credit, Drogba back in the day. Drogba was a top striker. But you remember when Drogba first came on at Chelsea? His second touch was a header. He couldn't control the ball. It was bouncing off him. But he still managed to find a way. And he just...
I don't know how that one last night. He seems to do everything right. He goes round he takes it past the player, goes round the goalkeeper and hits the post. I just can't understand. He seems to do all the hard work.
I think he's too rash for me. So I think there's potential, but it's kind of one of them ones, you either have it or you don't. And stuff like that, I'm like, does he have it?
I don't think Liverpool's in a position at this moment. I think Liverpool's still scrapping for every points they get. They're doing really well. They're doing better, actually doing better than I thought they would have done. I thought they might have done a wee decline this year, but they're not in that luxury position. They kind of drop feed him in and let him make his mistakes. You know, when he plays, they need something out of him, and he's not getting it all the time. You know, but that's what they say. Look, he could come good.
How do you see this game going on Sunday? Liverpool strong favourites at home.
I think Liverpool do it. I'll be cheering all for us, but I think they'll do the business. Like,
and finally, Man City. The boys have went 3-0, or Adams went 3-0, Jamie 2-0. I actually think as well 2-0 Man City. I think they'll get the goals early and they'll death by possession. I think they'll just play with them. That's what Man City tend to do. Quick shout out to Sarah, my sister, and Keelan's going to the game on Sunday. Hope you enjoy the game. Sarah's first actual football game, believe it or not. I think. Well, she might have been there. I don't know if she's been to Brandywell, but she's a Spurs household. But she's taking her fella over for his birthday, the United Man City game. So enjoy the game. I don't think Keelan's got any confidence whatsoever. But look, lads, thanks very much for coming on. It's been a brilliant show. Jamie, I think Man City are playing Liverpool in a few weeks' time. I mean, I'm going to have to get you on my meets for this. This is going to be the blockbuster.
Oh, definitely. Gives a shout.
Kieran Preston versus Jamie Noonan. That'll be interesting. Kieran, drop me a message if you're interested. I think that's just after the international break. And I mean, I'm sure Kieran, it's 12:30 okay for you, Kieran, for a game. What they probably work a podcast around you as well. All these complaints about kickoff times. Boys, hey, whatever he's at, I know you're very busy. Adam, you're flat out with your work. Jamie, you're going to be up around the town. Anyone sees Jamie, give him a wave. Boys, thanks very much for coming on. I hope you enjoy the game on Sunday. As I said, I think, Adam, you mightn't enjoy it as much as Jamie, but we'll definitely get you on again. Been a great show. Hope everyone enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back midweek with more as we build up to I think it's a League Cup midweek, isn't it? And then there's more big games next weekend. I'm actually going to White Hart Lane next weekend for the Spurs-Chelsea game. I'm looking forward to that. And I'll finish off with this comment. Callum says it's time to wrap it up. There's a Spurs title charge they watch. Hopefully, Callum. Hopefully. Lads, thanks very much, and I'll see you soon.
Right, lads. All the best.
Cheers.
See you later.